She's faking it for attention. She always does this when she doesn't get her way. My sister Celeste screamed as I convulsed on the courtroom floor, foam tinged with blood frothing from my mouth. But what the emergency medical team would discover when they rushed in wasn't just that I'd been denied my anti-seizure medication for weeks. It was that my loving family had been slowly poisoning me to steal my inheritance before I turned 25. Judge Harrison immediately ordered the bailiff to call 911, his face grave as he watched my body jerk uncontrollably against the cold marble. My parents, who seconds before had been testifying about my drug-seeking behavior and manipulation tactics, suddenly went pale as paramedics burst through the doors. "How long has she been seizing?" the lead EMT asked, dropping to his knees beside me. 3 minutes, the court reporter said, her voice shaking. "Maybe 4. Status epilepticus," the EMT muttered to his partner. "We need Ativan now." As they worked to stop the seizure, Celeste tried to slip toward the exit. "Where do you think you're going?" Judge Harrison's voice boomed. "Nobody leaves this courtroom. Bailiff, seal the doors." My parents exchanged panicked glances. They'd brought me here to have me declared mentally incompetent before my 25th birthday, before I inherited grandmother's estate. They hadn't expected this. The seizure finally stopped after 6 minutes. I lay there, conscious but unable to move, listening to everything unfold around me. It's a common misconception that people are unconscious during seizures. Sometimes we're trapped in our bodies, aware but unable to respond. Her medical alert bracelet says she has epilepsy, the EMT reported. "When did she last have her medication?" "She takes pills all the time," Mom said quickly. "We can't keep track." "Ma'am, I'm asking about her prescribed anti-epileptic drugs." "Keppru? Lamictal? What's she on?" "I don't." "I know," a voice said from the gallery. Everyone turned to see my ex-roommate Julia standing up. "She takes Lamictal, 200 milligrams twice daily. But she hasn't had it in 3 weeks because her family keeps taking it." "That's a lie," Celeste shouted. Julia held up her phone. "I have videos. Recordings. Everything." Judge Harrison leaned forward. "Young woman, please approach the bench." As Julia walked forward, the EMTs continued working on me. "We need to get her to the hospital," one said. "Her vitals are erratic. Blood pressure's through the roof." "Take her," the judge ordered. "But I want a full toxicology panel run. Something's not right here." "Your Honor," my father protested, "this is a simple inheritance dispute. A simple dispute where the beneficiary just had a life-threatening seizure after allegedly being denied medication? Sit down, Mr. Novak." As they loaded me onto a stretcher, I managed to whisper to the EMT, "Test for everything." He looked at me sharply, then nodded. "We will." The last thing I saw before they wheeled me out was Julia handing her phone to the judge, my family's faces cycling through stages of rage and fear. I woke up in the hospital to find 2 police officers stationed outside my room. Dr. Patel, the attending physician, was reviewing my chart with a grim expression. "Astrid," she said gently when she saw I was awake. "How are you feeling?" "Like I got hit by a truck," I croaked. "That's understandable. You had a severe seizure." "But Astrid," she pulled a chair close to my bed. "We need to talk about what we found in your blood work." My heart rate spiked on the monitor. "What did you find?" "Besides the dangerously low levels of Lamictal, we found traces of oleander." "What?" "It's a highly toxic plant. In small doses, it can cause symptoms that mimic mental illness, confusion, hallucinations, erratic behavior. In larger doses." She didn't need to finish. "They were poisoning me," I whispered. "That's what the police believe. Your friend Julia brought them hours of recordings. Your family was apparently quite open about their plan when they thought no one was listening." A knock on the door interrupted us. Detective Martinez entered, followed by a woman in a suit. "Ms. Novak, I'm Detective Martinez, and this is Assistant DA Sharon Wells. Do you feel up to answering some questions?" I nodded. "Your roommate Julia has been very helpful. According to her, this has been going on for months. Since I got the letter about grandmother's estate," I confirmed. $20 million, to be distributed when I turn 25. That's in 3 weeks. And if something happened to you, it would go to my sister and parents equally. The ADA made notes. "Tell us about the medication theft." "It started small. A pill here and there. Celeste would say she had headaches and needed something strong. When I refused, my parents would lecture me about being selfish. 'Sharing is caring,' they'd say. 'Stop being so dramatic about your condition.' Did you report the thefts?" To whom? My parents. They're the ones who enabled it. The police? What evidence did I have that my family was taking my pills? They made sure it always looked like I was just being paranoid. Smart of you to confide in Julia, Detective Martinez said. I was desperate. The seizures were getting worse without consistent medication. I knew something bad would happen, but I didn't know about the poisoning then. I just thought they were incompetent and cruel. When did the behavior escalate? 2 months ago. They started adding things to my food. I'd get violently ill after family dinners. They'd say I was making myself sick for attention. Classic gaslighting. Dr. Patel interjected. The oleander would cause severe gastrointestinal distress, confusion, visual disturbances. All symptoms that could be attributed to mental illness if no one tested for poisoning. They were building a case, I realized. Every episode of strange behavior was documented. They were going to use it to have me declared incompetent. Exactly, the ADA confirmed. We found their petition, filed 2 weeks ago. The hearing today was supposed to be a formality. But I had a seizure instead. Which saved your life, Dr. Patel said. The amount of oleander in your system was approaching lethal levels. Another week or 2. I shuddered. What happens now? Now, Detective Martinez said, we arrest them for attempted murder. The next day, I watched from my hospital bed as the news reported on my family's arrest. Prominent business family accused of attempted murder in inheritance scheme scrolled across the bottom of the screen. Julia sat beside me, holding my hand. I'm so sorry I didn't do something sooner. You documented everything. You saved my life. I just couldn't stand watching them hurt you anymore. The day Celeste took your entire bottle, and your mom laughed about it. I started recording everything after that. What did they say in the recordings? Julia pulled out her phone. Are you sure you want to hear? I nodded. I needed to know. She played a recording from her phone. My mother's voice filled the room. 3 more weeks. We just need her incapacitated for 3 more weeks. Once she's in a facility, we can manage her care permanently. Celeste's laugh followed. Did you see her stumbling yesterday? The oleander's working perfectly. Everyone at her job thinks she's losing it. Still, my father's voice added, we need to be careful. Too much, Anne. And what? She dies. Celeste interrupted. Would that really be so bad? 20 million split 2 ways instead of 3. Celeste. Mom scolded, but she sounded more amused than horrified. I'm just saying what we're all thinking. Little Miss Perfect with her epilepsy, always needing special treatment, special pills, special attention. Maybe nature should take its course. I gestured for Julia to stop. I'd heard enough. There's hours of this, Julia said quietly. They discussed everything. Stealing your pills, adding poison to your food, even considering hiring someone to cause an accident. But they decided the incompetency route was cleaner, I guessed. Less suspicious, yeah. Make you look crazy, get you committed, control your medication and food in a facility they chose. You'd have been dead within a year, and it would have looked natural. A tragic epileptic who couldn't manage her condition. A knock interrupted us. A man in an expensive suit entered. Not the court-appointed lawyer I'd expected, but someone who radiated authority. Ms. Novak, I'm James Crawford from Crawford and Associates. Your grandmother's estate lawyer. I struggled to sit up straighter. I didn't call. Judge Harrison did. He's very concerned about what transpired in his courtroom. He's also ordered a full review of your family's petition for conservatorship. I can't afford. Your grandmother's estate will cover all legal fees. She was very specific in her will about protecting you from, and I quote, the vultures I unfortunately birthed and married into my family. I almost laughed. She knew. She suspected. That's why the inheritance comes to you alone, and why she set the age at 25. She hoped that would give you time to establish independence. She never imagined they'd try to. He gestured vaguely at my hospital room. Kill me? Quite. Now, we need to discuss next steps. Your family's assets will likely be frozen given the criminal charges. You'll need somewhere safe to stay upon discharge. She's staying with me, Julia said firmly. I've already moved her things from her parents' house. They let you in? They're in jail, Julia said with satisfaction. And I still had my spare key from when Astrid lived there before. Mr. Crawford nodded approvingly. Good. I'll arrange for private security as well. With this much money at stake, we can't be too careful. Is the inheritance safe? I asked. Ironclad. Your grandmother made sure of that. In 3 weeks, on your birthday, you'll receive full control. No one can touch it but you. 3 weeks. I just had to survive 3 more weeks. The trial was a sensation. My family, who'd always been so concerned with appearances, had their dirty laundry aired for the world to see. The prosecution's case was damning. Julia's recordings revealed months of planning. Security footage from my apartment building showed Celeste entering with my spare key, the one she'd stolen, and leaving with my medication bottles. Bank records showed my parents researching private psychiatric facilities known for poor oversight. They'd even visited one and put down a deposit. The oleander was traced to my mother's garden. She'd been grinding the leaves and adding them to tea bags, which she'd insist I drink during our bonding time. But the worst revelation came from Celeste's phone. She'd been texting a friend, bragging about their plan. Almost got the crazy bitch locked up today. Few more weeks and I'll be rich. The friend had asked, what if she actually dies? Celeste's response, epileptics die all the time. No one would question it. When the prosecutor read that aloud, several jurors visibly recoiled. My testimony was the hardest part. Sitting in the witness box, looking at the people who were supposed to love me, who were supposed to protect me, knowing they'd tried to kill me for money. They were my family, I said, voice breaking. Every time I had a seizure, I trusted them to help me. Instead, they were making them worse. They watched me suffer and laughed about it. Objection, their lawyer called. Speculation about their emotional state. Overruled, the judge said coldly. The recordings speak for themselves. The defense tried to paint me as a difficult daughter, someone who exaggerated her condition for sympathy. They suggested I might have poisoned myself for attention. The prosecutor's response was swift. Ms. Novak works as a pediatric nurse. She specifically helps children with neurological conditions. Are we to believe she poisoned herself, risked her career, risked her life, all for attention? They had no answer for that. The verdict came back guilty on all counts. Attempted murder, fraud, theft of medication, elder abuse, that last one for their treatment of me, as someone with a disability requiring medication. Celeste got 15 years. My parents each got 20. As they were led away in handcuffs, my mother turned to me. This is your fault. If you'd just shared. Sharing is caring? I interrupted. That's your defense? You tried to murder me, and you're still talking about sharing. She had no response. None of them did. They'd been so convinced of their own entitlement to my inheritance, to my medication, to my life, that they couldn't comprehend consequences. 3 weeks later, on my 25th birthday, I sat in Mr. Crawford's office as he transferred my grandmother's estate into my control. What will you do now? He asked. First, I'm going to set up a foundation for epilepsy research and support. Then, I smiled. Then I'm going to live. Really live. Without fear, without having to hide my medication, without apologizing for my condition. Your grandmother would be proud. I hope so. Julia drove me home, our home now. We decided to stay roommates, but this time in a security building with cameras and keypad entries. No more stolen keys. As we pulled up, she said, "You know what the ironic part is?" "What?" "If they'd just been a loving family, you probably would have shared the inheritance with them anyway." She was right. Before all this, before I knew what they really were, I'd planned to help them. Pay off their debts. Buy them nice things. Share my good fortune. But they couldn't wait. Couldn't see me as anything but an obstacle to wealth that was never theirs to begin with. Their greed cost them everything, I said. And saved your life, Julia added. If they'd been smarter, more patient. I shuddered. She was right. Their impatience, their escalation, their sheer cruelty had exposed them. A seizure in court, the very place they'd brought me to destroy me, had saved me instead. I still have nightmares, I admitted. About taking tea from my mother's hands. About trusting them with my life every time I had a seizure. That's what therapy is for, Julia said gently. And hey, now you can afford the best therapist in the city. That made me laugh. Trust Julia to find the silver lining. As we entered our apartment, I saw the bottle of Lamictal on the kitchen counter, right where I'd left it. No one would take it. No one would shame me for needing it. No one would use my condition against me. For the first time in my life, I was safe. My family had called me selfish for protecting my medication. They'd called me dramatic for insisting on taking it consistently. But when I had that seizure in front of the judge, when the truth came spilling out in blood tests and brain scans, everyone saw who was really selfish, who was really dramatic, the ones willing to kill for money they never earned. The ones who saw my epilepsy not as a condition to manage, but as a weakness to exploit. They were in prison now where they belonged. And me? I was free. Free to take my medication without fear. Free to live without poison in my tea. Free to trust that when I had a seizure, the people around me would help, not hurt. It wasn't the family I was born into, but it was the life I chose. And that made all the difference.